Welcome to In Conversation with Brad Wendes. Another great guest today. I have Dom Fenton, who's got, well, probably more strings to his bow than I have, which is saying something. So without further ado, Dom, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Brad. Yeah, great to be here. So I have a number of businesses, a number of podcasts, travelled all over the UK with some of these as well. Probably, yeah, similar to you, the amount of sort of strings we have to our bows, and obviously the amount of connections that we have between us and the ones that know both of us. It's sort of growing all the time. So, but yeah, it's great to be here, and I'm excited to do this today.
So the reason that we connected was through someone who works for me and my business, but in saying to a couple of people that I know, I've got Dom come over, I went on Dom's podcast, and they're like, we know him through the rugby club or through the school or this. So it's really interesting how people move in the same circles. So from a commercial point of view, what is it you do? What's your trade?
So I have a business called the Activity Connector. Fundamentally, that's me. I am a sole trader, but within that, I work with education establishments all over the UK, and I also help introduce other businesses into schools. Been doing that part of the business has been going about 5 years now. I also work for a national children's charity, which for me sort of pays a lot for what I do. And actually then I work on introduction fees and other things around introducing businesses to schools. And then obviously got the 2 podcasts, which we're now looking at sort of sponsorship and stuff like that. So hopefully at some point that'll lead to it as well.
That's great. And sleep's overrated anyway, isn't it? Like,
who needs sleep?
and even that was like, we were both chatting off camera about how we were both up with laptops open till sort of gone 1 o'clock this morning, because I think there's the old joke, isn't there? Working for yourself is brilliant. You get to choose which 20 hours a day you work.
20? Is that it? So yeah, I love working for myself. And I think a lot of it for me is the different people we meet. Yeah. And I love chatting. So this will fly by. This will absolutely fly by. People who know me will know that. But as I say, I'm very much a people person. I need to be around people. So actually, as a self-employed businessman, which sounds really weird because I never think myself like that because of what we do, actually it can also be quite isolating. So for me, it's really important to bounce off other people, share people's stories. That's why I love doing the podcasting. Yeah. Because actually, as you say, I can just chat to people all the time. I chat to people every day.
Yeah. I remember when it was just kind of me in a van going around schools doing like sports or whatever, or going from theatre to theatre doing, you'd be the guy who goes in and does that job. And you'd have really polite, nice conversations, and you'd be in the periphery of a lot of people's lives, and you'd get this massive network. But I do quite like having a base. So this is our building. This is like where we run the business from. And I like we got 12 staff, and I know about them, and I know their partners, and that is nice. Although it was fun going around in a van and just going place to place, and being the the littlest hobo or something.
Yeah, the thing is, I get caught between two at the moment. So I work for a charity called Penathlon around the UK. So we run sports events for children with additional needs. Brilliant job. Absolutely love what we do in terms of that. But again, there is a lot of travel. So as you say, I'm in the van a lot. I'm on the M6 a lot. I'm on the M25 a lot. I'm on the M4 a lot. I'm in hotels a lot. So actually to catch me to be able to do a live face-to-face is really good because I'm generally not around. But actually podcasting now for me has become really important because I listen to podcasts. Yeah. So actually people go, how do you do what you do? Because the amount of different things we've got. Well, I've got a good network of people around me. I've got a great PA. I've now got a social media company that do all my social media work. I've got a great partner, and she continually keeps me going. If I get a down moment, not that I do, or I don't get it that often. But I've got someone in my back to go, actually, you've got this, and let's do this, or let's look at this, because she's got her own business as well. So yeah, but I think being around people is really important. And actually, if I've got a 6-hour journey to Cumbria, like I do quite a lot, or North Wales, I'm listening to podcasts, or I'm having phone calls with people, because actually I can guarantee they can get me, because I can't go anywhere.
No, that's true.
Especially sitting in traffic a lot.
Yeah.
You end up sitting there. What am I going to do? Okay, well, I might as well make that phone call, or I might as well just listen to that podcast and just keep me going.
So I do miss that, and I don't miss that. I really enjoyed traveling around the country. I mean, there were days where I'd go to Manchester in the morning and come home at night, and now I'm a little bit more picky and say, if I'm driving more than 2 hours, I'd like a hotel.
Yeah.
Like if I'm driving 2 hours to get somewhere, doing an 8-hour day or a 10-hour day, then driving home.
Yeah.
That's a long day. So if it's a more than 2 hour drive, I like a hotel. But we did Lowestoft. I did 2 days in Lowestoft this weekend, which is from here 2 hours, from home 90 minutes. I was like,
Okay.
that'll be fine. That'll be fine.
Yeah.
It was still.
It's still a long time.
Yeah.
It's still, because you're concentrating all the day doing your event, and actually, but you've still then got to concentrate. Especially if you're the one doing the driving,
Yeah.
you have to concentrate.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily just you on the road. Actually, you're concentrating to avoid all the other people on the road.
Yeah.
Because it's generally that way. Some of the stuff we see on the road is just like, really, and you'll get to that point. I'm in hotels probably 3 days a week.
Right.
So, but what that does enable me to do is, the world we're in now, I can do the Zooms. I can record, obviously, because you came on the podcast, and we did it online. So I can do them from a hotel room.
Yeah.
If you look at probably some of the episodes, they may be from different hotels.
Yeah.
And I normally get phone calls going, which, I keep getting people going, one day you're going to do a guide to service stations around the UK. And I was like, I could probably do that now, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Or do a review of, do a blog about the reviews of hotels around the UK. I'm not quite there yet.
I think service stations I could probably do as well. So it's funny you should mention that. Just on podcasting for a minute.
Yeah.
I do in person and I do remote ones.
Yeah.
And it really tears me. I love sitting here on a nice comfy chair, having a conversation. I'll use the basement of Three Wise Monkeys in Colchester for people in North Essex. I use the studio downstairs. I really like the in-person conversation because we can just sit here and have a laugh and a chat, and it's nice. But when you do them remotely, it's a lot easier to edit. It's so much, the sound is mostly covered and you can kind of just whack it in and trim it around a little bit. Whereas here I've got 3 cameras, 2 microphones. So I've got 2 sound feeds, 3 video feeds that I need to bring in and edit and sync up. And but it's a much better conversation. Even if the end video is not better, I think it's a better conversation in person. But I do like the remote ones because of how easy it is.
It is easy. Providing you've got a laptop, providing you've got the Wi-Fi connection. I was doing a podcast yesterday from home, but my headphone broke. So I was all set to do one, all of a sudden it went, and I was like, oh no. Whereas this is probably, I've been on a number of different podcasts. This is the first ever in-person one I've done.
Oh, okay.
And actually I really like it. And obviously we were talking before we started. And one of the things I've sort of toyed with over the last year, because one of the podcasts has been going 3 years, I've never really, I did it for me. I didn't necessarily do it for anything, for views but I know the impact it's had on people, because as you say, people have messaged me or they've started, and it was the one that you came on about hobbies.
Yeah.
So actually, I did that because that was during COVID, and I just thought, you know what, hobbies have helped me a lot. I'm sure that let's get stories out there and let's chat to people, and it's 20, 25 minutes. It goes so quickly. I've got a great team that edit. Well, I've got one guy that edits for me, because he's the one I spoke to about podcasting initially. I did some sort of online network. He's based in in the West Midlands. So literally, he went, just do it. Just get a microphone. Just get your laptop, go on Zoom, press play, press record, and start chatting. And that's all I did. And that's, I've got people. I had someone messaging me this week going, "How do I get into podcasting?" Well, just do it.
Yeah,
and some of it is as simple as that. Just do it. I love all of this. So you're far more advanced than I am.
I don't know about that.
But for me, it was a case of let's just start it, because I'm someone who, and I'd like to think people who know me would say that actually I'm a doer, rather than just go, oh, this is what we're going to do this in the next 18. Let's do it. If we can do it, let's do it now.
Yep.
Let's actually make that different. Let's do this, because you don't actually know when someone needs it.
Yep.
You don't know when someone's going to hear something and go, actually, I needed that moment. Because we were talking about the old Clubhouse before.
Yeah.
And being on a panel and someone going, and me being honest about what divorce was and how there was struggles with it. And someone went, "You're the first guy I've heard talk like that." And I said, well, why am I going to say anything different? I'm just going to talk my truth. I'm going to talk how I felt. If people don't like that, but, I'd rather be honest with people.
Absolutely.
And that's how I've always been.
So there's a couple of things I wanted to unpack, a couple of things I did want to speak to you about. And I think probably the one that we can come off that is men's mental health.
Yeah.
And how important that is to talk. And why do you think men don't talk about things as much?
Because we're told not to.
Right.
Really, really simple. We're told that if we talk, if we share, and if we open up on feelings, we're weak. We have to have this good old British stiff upper lip.
Yeah.
You can't show emotion. You can't do this. If I hadn't shown emotion throughout different parts of my life, I wouldn't be here. Right. And I can categorically say that. But actually, the best thing I've ever done is opened up. The best thing I've ever done is reached out for help and said, I've hit rock bottom. I can't go on like this. So I need some support. And that was only 3 years ago.
Yeah. And so I had Ed on the show, and we spoke a little bit off camera, and Ed opened up and started talking about his feelings as being someone who was childless, but not by choice, and the struggles and how infertility can be often seen as a woman's problem. And while things happen to a woman's body, the man still experiences loss, and he has to kind of be there for her.
Yeah.
It's not something that guys talk about, and I think it was really useful. And after the podcast, he did say that he hadn't spoken about it before. He's just come in there with a camera in his face and started pouring his heart out. And I've had people reach out to me talking about that, and their experiences with that. And people a handful of people messaging you saying, that was really helpful to hear. I needed that. Yeah. Like, great, job done, And
I think that's the power of this. I think that's the power of sharing stories. Because actually, when you're personally, and I'm not a mental health expert. I'm not trained, but I say it from a lived experience. Actually, a lot of the time you think you're the only one going through it. Actually, there's millions of people going through it.
Yeah.
And actually, all it takes is for someone to go, actually, I'm Dom, I'm struggling with my own mental health, I need help. For other people to go, oh, actually, if he can do it, I can do it as well. And I think that, for me, that's a really important bit, and that's a really bit of going, that's why men will talk given the right circumstance, given the right environment, feeling safe in that environment. And for your guest to say that he felt comfortable enough with you, because I think as someone who's interviewing as such, that's our job, is to actually, if we want to get the best out of our guests, our job is to make them feel comfortable, make them feel safe, make them feel actually you can open up, because I can guarantee it will help someone.
Oh God, yeah. And on that, you talk about men needing something to open up. I was listening to an interesting conversation. I don't want to be on a podcast talking about other podcasts.
Yeah.
I think, but
Yeah.
I was listening to Chris Williams, and he was talking about on Modern Wisdom, was talking about how men talk, and he said, look at people's feet when they're talking. Women tend to talk perpendicular. They will be facing each other.
Yeah.
And the only time that men would face each other like that is if they're going to fight or kiss.
Yeah.
And most of the time we don't want to do either of those things. So men tend to talk like, if women talk at 180 degrees straight on, men will talk at 120 degrees,
Yeah.
so slightly out. And what the suggestion is that men need to be doing something while talking. So that what we spoke about, the community shed, there's a few projects. I think Breitling got one up in North Essex, where there's a place that men or anyone, but specifically men, can go and do projects and do things. And something that that I found, and I'm kind of more aware of it now, but I wasn't at the time. So there was, I had spoken previously on podcasts about the week my wife left me was on Friday night. Now, I won't get into, I'm not going to cast blame. The relationship was not in a good place, and she took the move, but it pulled the rug out from under me. So now I'm like in a house on my own. That was on the Friday night. I had spoken to my best friend, my two best friends, and I was like, look, this has happened. Can you guys just come over for the weekend? Now, I'm a sports coach. I coach on Saturday. So I was in on Saturday. I left early on the Saturday, and one of the guys who was working here, very old friend, I shouted to him. He was very, very far wall over there, and I was under where we were sitting here, and I went, see you next week. That was my goodbye. The Sunday night, he took his own life. And that was my goodbye to him, because I was so wrapped up in what I was going through that time. And I then didn't tell anyone else that my wife had left me. Because I had to be there for the rest of our circle of friends. And I'm the boss, and people look to me for leadership and guidance. So I had to be there for a whole bunch of people. And that was a strange week, because I was working in Amsterdam that week as well. So on the Monday, I've got the phone call from his mum to say this has happened. I've then had to let people know. The Tuesday, I went to another funeral and ringing people on the way to the funeral to tell them what's gone on, having the same conversation while driving up to Coventry. And then I've flown out to Amsterdam and had to be on a massive theatrical production for the rest of the week. And it was a blur. And I say, you get a month down the line, and I hadn't even told anyone who worked here that, my wife had left me. And it was in reception here, probably the March, months later, that I told one of the customers, and one of the staff was like, "You what?" I was like, "Oh, yeah." Like she went in, and after that, people were there, and even at the funeral of the guy who took his own life, there's a lot of people there. He was a young guy, very well liked, very loved, and I'm stood there thinking to myself, I can't cry because people will see me, and I need to be strong for everybody. And now I'm like, why was that ever in my brain that I needed to, I've had the worst week of my life, and I'm sitting here going, I can't show emotion. It's mad.
And it is, and I think we get to I've been divorced, or been obviously married and divorced, got two girls, helped raise two stepchildren as well, who are now, I think, 24 and 21. Great kids. Still have a conversation with them. And actually, to say that, even going through those bits was tough. And that was, again, not here to say anything about sort of that side of it. These things happen. But actually, when you're going through it, the person you normally vent to is partly the one that's, you can't do that to now. So you then become isolated, you then become on your own, or that you have all these, you're in an empty house, which, and having my two girls who are now sort of 13 and 11, when they were younger, you're used to them being around the house, and all of a sudden you're going back to a quiet house and stuff like that. I needed people to talk to, but again, you'd hold it inside. You wouldn't tell people, because you are dealing with stuff, and you are trying to deal with stuff. And I think having the right people around you is the biggest thing. Having someone you're not necessarily they may be customers, you won't always. I think within most businesses, even if they're a customer, you won't necessarily have that personal contact with them a lot.
No.
Yeah, they'll come in, they'll do their stuff, they'll go. Okay, you're not going to tell them your personal life, but actually, sometimes you need to just offload to someone, and because you don't want judgment, because you don't want people telling you this and this and this. Actually, that's why therapy and counselling works. And the amount of people that I have, I've had therapy. I've probably had four different occasions throughout my life. I've had therapy. It had to be right, but actually, it's someone different. It's someone. The last one was all online, and actually, that was probably the best I had. I'm still in contact with them now, not necessarily as a therapist, but again, I get, probably similar to you, I get comments from people, and I get people reaching out and going, I'm in a bad place. Can you help, or can you recommend someone? Actually, I recommend them. I recommend other mental health charities that I work with now. I love that bit because people feel they can reach out.
Yeah.
And I think because of our own personal experiences of those sort of things, I think that's really, really important. But we have to be able to open up. We have to be able to go and understand that actually, if you are a guy listening to this and you're struggling, and you need to offload, and if you need to cry, just cry.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Oh yeah.
If you need to let that out, let it out, because I'm not. I'd rather be hearing you cry than hearing that you're not here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'd rather you reach out and do that. But the good thing is, again, it's an old adage that if you're still here, you're 100% through your bad days and stuff like that. So you are still here, and I'm proud to still be doing what I do. I'm proud to be here. And life's good.
Good.
Life's in a good place.
Oh, that's fantastic to hear. That, and we do go through these dark times, and it's good that you can look back and think, well, that was shit.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. But that's it, and that's it. You've got through it, and actually, it's a really weird thing, and I heard it on the TV program this week as well. I'm happy to have gone through what I've gone through. Because I'm sat here now.
Yeah. I guess the modern version of what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, but that's maybe not the right way of looking at it.
But if someone else had gone through it, maybe they weren't able to get through it.
Yeah.
But actually, I'd rather it happen to me because I'm here now, talking to you, than someone else.
Yeah, and if someone reaches out, it's very easy to kind of be dismissive of it, and it's worth just listening. Or, like I say, we're not mental health experts, we're just guys that have experienced some stuff, being able to point people in the right direction, knowing where to point them. Which kind of brings me on to something else I wanted to ask you about. You worked in insurance previously.
Yeah.
What takes you from working in insurance to doing all the things you're doing? Like, is it a personal mission, or is it just what you wanted to do? Or?
I fell into insurance. I've been involved in sport since the age of 5. I'm 48 now. I started playing rugby at the rugby club, at Chelmsford Rugby Club. Went through a lot at school, but I was always playing rugby. So any issues I had at school from bullying and stuff like that, because I suffered quite badly with that, and was suicidal at school around that. But actually, I had my rugby. Yeah. So dealt with all that. Left there, went to college, did a resit year at Chelmsford College, and I actually think that was the best time I ever had, because actually I've left this environment that didn't suit me, and I wasn't necessarily academic, but I was good at my sport. I'm good at my rugby. But where you're one of the only main rugby players and everything's football and other stuff, you end up almost not feeling that you fitted in.
Yep.
So I was in a small primary school. I played every single team. I played chess, and we used to travel around the east of the region playing chess with school.
Awesome.
and being in a small primary school, you are in every school performance. So I was probably one of the lead vocals and stuff at school, at primary school. So you then go to a secondary school, you go, oh, I do this, I sing and I'm involved in chess and I did my rugby. You then go into secondary school and it's like, oh, okay. The chess club at secondary school, I left after 6 months because I kept on beating everyone. And even the teacher who ran it used to really do moves really slowly. You only had like an hour for lunch. So he didn't lose straight away. You'd be having to move every 10 minutes. It's like, oh, come on. So I ended up, and I still play chess a little bit now, not really to that, just as a bit of a pastime and something to do. Normally on a train, or I'll do it online and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So went to school, and it's not necessarily just because of the bullying, but it didn't help. I think I only got 3 GCSEs when I left school. Went to Chelmsford College, did a resit year, got another 3 in that 1 year. So actually, I knew I had some brains, not many. My daughter's far more intelligent than I will ever be. Don't know where she gets that from. But you end up going, did a 2-year course in leisure studies, BTEC leisure studies course. Still didn't really know. Obviously, I was always passionate about sport because it was the one thing that I was good at. And then end up falling into insurance. And I was like, okay. So I did insurance for probably 10 years, but in different. So I used to work in motor claims, used to work in theft of vehicles, then worked for a claims investigator, which was all right, but my English was never great. And I had to write reports. Didn't really work. Yeah. And I'd be working from home now and again. I remember working from home when sort of 9/11 hit. Did it for a little bit longer. And then what basically happened, because I started playing first team at Chelmsford Rugby Club when I was 17. And a girl who I knew at the rugby club, she was coaching one of the mini age groups at the club. And because I'd grown up through it and I'd been there the whole time, she went, do you fancy coming down and help? Just come down for a session. You're a first team player now. Actually be a bit of a role model to these kids. Mm-hmm. I was like, yeah, I'll come down, help. Never stopped. And to be fair, a lot of the people you probably know are probably ones that have come through that coaching system that I've coached.
Yeah. All roads lead to Chelmsford Rugby Club.
They seem to.
Previous guests on here. So Will, who runs Cube Studios and is running Best of Chelmsford. Kaylee, who's now she's gone from Europe to Toronto now. She's been in Toronto this week. They're all Chelmsford Rugby Club people. Yeah,
and the fact is that sort of Kaylee, her husband Luke.
Yep.
I used to coach. So
his dad was involved.
His dad. Yep. We set up the youth section together at Chelmsford. Graham. So I go back a long time with Graham. I know the whole family. Obviously, Will's brother Ollie, I used to coach.
Yeah.
So yeah, everything in a way does lead back there, and it is my second. Not necessarily now, but it was my second home.
Yeah.
I used to. I used to play first team on a Saturday. Used to go out and have a few drinks, then be ready on a Sunday, and then coach, and I did that for years and did a bit of county coaching and other stuff. But that all started from one occasion where Romley said to me, I think she was coaching under 12s, under 11s or under 12s. Would you come down and do and just join in for a session? Yeah, of course I will. Never stopped. And I'd end up doing safeguarding. I was youth chair. I was academy chair. I was on the committee for probably 5 or 6 years. But I used to coach up to sort of under 16, under 17s. Did a little bit of helped, and I was sort of first team and second team captain, and so a lot of stuff has gone on at that rugby club. It has, and it is who I am. Even now, I sort of retired from playing. 2018, I dislocated my kneecap playing in a cup final, and I was just like, I can't do this anymore. actually everything leads to there. And actually, what happened with the insurance, I was still doing insurance. And then England won the Rugby World Cup in 2003. And I just sat there and went, surely I can do something. Surely I can now do something. So I ended up just going, right, I'm leaving insurance. I became the club coach for Chelsea, like the community coach. Mm-hmm. Got a sponsored car for a year.
Nice.
Had my little name on the side. I remember the photo going, yay! Drove around, did some coaching. Ended up working for a Great Baddow as a sports college. Supported a couple of their teachers. And supported them with their rugby. Worked in their primary schools. And sort of everything then stemmed from there. So I did that and then went to... financially didn't really work. I was still living at home, ended up staying at home, and went, right, okay. Ended up going back to Chelmsford College, but to work. And it's amazing how many teachers who were there or lecturers when I was a student were still there.
Yeah.
So I ended up going around that full circle and going, oh, I'm now a colleague of yours. And now talk to a lot of them still. And then 2008, I got and again, everything goes back to who you know. And whatever people think, I'm a big believer that actually the world is about who you know. Mm. And actually the network that you have, they will support you and look after you. So you make sure that you have your tribe, you treat people the right way, and things will happen. I was then had a phone call from a head teacher who was taken on setting up an academy trust in Essex, and said, "Would you come over? I want his XPE. Are you interested in coming on board and working with me?" And a lot of that was looking at trying to get kids involved in sports clubs. Mm-hmm. I wasn't a teacher. I respect the industry massively, but I never wanted to be a teacher.
No.
I always used to have this call going, you should be a PE teacher. I struggle being in one place, as you can obviously see with me travelling around the country. And then, ended up going, at the time, obviously then working for college, left college. But I had a real 6-month period because I was due to start and then it got put back 6 months, but I'd already left college. So luckily I had a good relationship with Richard at Chelmsford Council, who went, actually, why don't you become a duty manager for me for those 6 months? Mm-hmm. Massively helped me. I had the home and, was living, had a house and stuff like that, so I needed to pay mortgage and all these other things, and actually went, okay, come and work for me. And then I think I started the August or September 2008 with the Academy's Enterprise Trust, and that grew massively all over the UK, so I ended up again travelling all over the UK. Left there at 2015, got made redundant. That's where a lot of trouble started when I left there.
Yeah. Sort
of 2015, 2016. Marriage breakdown, all these other bits. And I'm a big believer in things happen for reasons. I'm a big, I believe there's a reason we've met now. I think you never know who you're going to meet. You never know. And you might hear people's names all the time. And I knew about yourself for a few years, and obviously working with the academies in Whittam and stuff like that. And obviously knowing the boys that I do.
Yep.
Obviously involved with what you're involved with and working with you. So there's always names that have gone about, but I do believe there's reasons that we've now come together and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
That's just how I am. And I'm always looking now going, right, okay, what does that look like?
Well, and there's different theories on that. And they're like Carl Jung talks about synchronicity, meaningful coincidence. If something happens, whether it be the universe or higher power or just, like grabbing opportunities.
Yeah.
And the other, like the opportunity theory. So you don't know an opportunity is there unless you're looking for opportunities.
Yeah.
And if you're the kind of person that's looking for those connections, looking for opportunities, you're like, oh, my brain's now going, we could do that, we could do that, we could do that. And if you're not, if you're just the kind of person that is perfectly happy with a lot and doing their thing, then you're not going to, you'll be like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, no, I've heard about him. Cool. Okay. Yeah. See you later.
Yeah. And I think with that, I probably was that second person previously, but actually there's so much more out there now. And I think your mindset does change. And for me, it's a massive mindset. And I just think I'm fortunate. I'm grateful to do what I do and all the different things I do. So, the men's mental health side of it, the sports events for children with additional needs, the podcasting, the working with charities, I work with a number of companies who look at domestic abuse and training around domestic abuse and county lines and all this sort of stuff. What there is, a lot of these are where things aren't quite right.
Yep.
And that's why we're so busy.
Yeah.
In my opinion, is the reason we're so busy. One, there's a massive need out there. Two, and it's not necessarily me, but the people I work with are very good. I don't like I'm happy to be on stage and share my story, and I've started doing more of that now. But however, I'm quite happy putting people in front of me. You put me in certain social circles, I can stand back a little bit, but I'm always watching the room. I'm always seeing what's going on. I'm always trying to see where I can not fit in, because it feels like I'm desperate. I'm not desperate to fit in. People naturally come in to me now, and conversations are happening, and these sort of things, which is amazing. But yeah, I've always got my ear to the ground. The problem is, I suppose, and I don't know if it's a good thing. Maybe some things are not enough. And I'm always looking at that. I'm always looking at another opportunity or another conversation. I'm very much a yes.
But there's only so many hours in the day.
There is. If I could probably copy me 2 or 3 times, that would help.
Yeah.
But again, you get the good people, you get the right people around you. You make very simple introductions. You let them, as long as I'm not someone who I don't need to hold everything. I'm someone who's actually, once I've made that introduction, just get on with it. Yeah. I don't need to know everything you're doing. Let me make the introduction. You do the work.
And run with it.
Yeah, just get on with it. I haven't got time.
So you said a few things there, and one resonated quite a lot about you needed something to do when you were a kid. So you had rugby and you had sport, or you had a lot of things. And one of our guests, Jamie, spoke about having a third space and how important that is. And I think that maybe is a driver for people like ourselves.
Yeah.
You've got home where you live. You've got work or school where you have to go.
Yeah.
And then you need a space that's yours. You need a third space.
Yeah.
And I think you and I, certainly from what you were saying and my own personal experiences, had sport and had activities that was your safe space, the place that you felt belonging, you found your tribe. And is it safe to say that because of the benefits, and you felt the benefits of that, it's something that you understand why it's important to create that for other people?
Yeah, because I think it creates that empathy, and I think that's really important. I think that, as I said earlier, without that, I wouldn't be here. And I know that for sure. Actually, it's important for us to provide the opportunity for that space to be that space for someone else.
Yeah.
And it's important that we're involved with things that are bigger than ourselves, because I think if we're not, we could become very self-centered and we become very much about us. We're actually, the world's such a big place. Yeah. We are so minuscule in the planet. But actually, let's create those safe places. Let's create those opportunities for other people to come in. And what we do is not for everyone.
No.
It's not, your brilliant centre here or rug, whatever. What is important, though, is showing what can happen. And being able to say to someone, look, this may not be for you, but actually let's help. For me, it's a case of trying to help people find that. Whether or not you're creative, well, there's lots of those creative spaces for people. if you're sporty, you know, the big thing for me, my daughters, were they were involved in team sport. You know, they both play girls football. I've tried to keep away from that in terms of getting involved too much. I've struggled a little bit. But when people know your background, they're like, what, you coached for 25 years? Yeah. It's a different shaped ball. You know, politics, club politics, there's always going to be politics and stuff. There's always going to be politics in junior sport. But actually, I'm like going, I'm trying to keep away, and I haven't got time because I've got, you know, daughters of different age groups. They've got different teams.
Yeah.
I try and balance it out, whether or not I take one and I'll take you this week or I'll take her the next week, and we'll try and do that. And then again, being away a lot on a Sunday, I travel a lot on a Sunday. So that's a challenge. But I think for me, it's really important we provide our children, other people's children, adults, with the opportunity to find what's right for them.
Yep.
And it may be, you know, as I say, the amount of people I've spoken to who have such wide a variety of hobbies and stuff like that, but they've found what works for them. So I don't, you know, I'm not someone who judges someone on what your hobby is. You know, you might be a grown adult and you want to sit and read, or you want to read comics, or you want to, you know, I've had people talk to me about bird aviaries and beekeeping and whatever, you know, whatever works for you and is that third space to be able to be who you want to be, massive.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, you know, the amount of kids and adults you'll probably see here doing their thing.
Yeah. Just giving them somewhere to be. Even up here, you know, we built this to look like, I wanted it to feel like it was someone's attic or a shed or something, so the kids could come up here and just
chill.
Mismatched sofas and I love
just chill and just be up here and just, but they're part of something.
Yeah.
And I think providing we give people that chance to be part of something, actually we're doing the right thing.
Absolutely. Which I guess brings on to we'll start wrapping things up because, you know, we both got busy days. but I just always really interested to hear people's stories. But what are some of the projects you're doing next? You spoke about men's mental health, and that's important. So
that's. I've just put together a 3-year business plan, and I've probably got too many things in it. If I'm honest, I want to do too many things. Men's mental health is really important. Just before COVID, we started setting up a snooker program. As you say, men need to do stuff.
Yep.
And that's really important for me. So I'm currently, the problem I've got, it's not a problem. I'm a doer rather than a talker, although you probably wouldn't know this from this. I want things up and running. I'm quite impatient when it comes to those sort of things. You know, we can continue talking and have a meeting for the sake of a meeting, having that. No, let's just get on and put something on, and let's look at it and let's deal with it as it's going. So we're looking at potentially a snooker program. I'm talking to lead people for a fishing program, and also a bushcraft program.
Great.
They will probably start. Certainly, one of them will probably start October this year. I'm also doing some work around charities and stuff like that. So we've got a couple of big sort of charity introduction network events coming up. So that's really around that. So that's certainly around the men's mental health. And again, we'll see where that goes. I had a meeting a couple of weeks ago saying that I need to set up a CIC. Okay. If it means I can get funding, then okay, we need to look at having that alongside the business.
Yeah, well, hit me up if you need any help with that, because we've been running a CIC now for coming up to 2 years, and it's different to running a business. Yeah. But I think we've got a good idea of how it runs now, so don't be afraid.
Yeah, no, we'll certainly have that conversation just to add to what we're doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're quite key for me. So they're one of the big projects. obviously doing these sort of things are getting more and more important for me. I'm looking at doing more speaking, just to share stories. Say, whether it's podcasting, whether it's stage. I had a chat with someone last week and gone, right, how do I do more speaking? Because I'm not afraid to share stories. I'm not afraid to go, actually, this is what I've gone through. So whether it's a school or whether it's a corporate business or whether it's a community group or a charity event, any of those sort of things. So yeah, they're probably the two bigger ones at the moment. Because again, it's linked to men's mental health, the speaking and talking about bullying and these sort of things.
We're letting people know they're not alone. Their experiences aren't unique. There are people they can talk to. Yeah,
and people have gone through probably, the amount of Facebook groups or amount of social media posts we see about, oh, my child's being bullied, and it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Or, and I think actually the more we can share that, okay, it is happening, but we need, we can do stuff about it, or the fact that, and it's not easy, if your child is being bullied, it's one of the hardest things to have to deal with. Sometimes because the child won't say anything.
Yep.
I didn't for 3 years until I broke down one Sunday night on a bicycle on a in the living room, just on a bike and doing some pedaling, and then just broke down. So yeah, you try and go through things. So yeah, they're probably that, the speaking and the sort of the men's mental health is going to be my two big things. I'm looking at sort of creating some more events. I'm quite keen to do some public events and stuff like that. So, and again, things like, as you said, creating that space for people. One of the things I'm sort of toying with at the minute, is doing a community event where we host an area somewhere, and we bring clubs together.
Yep.
And then people can find out about clubs, because actually a lot of it is not knowing.
Yep, absolutely.
And we say, oh, you can get everything off social media. Yeah, but unless you know what you're looking for,
that's exactly right. Yeah,
you don't know it's there.
We've been here. I've got a 7,000 square foot warehouse. We've been here 6 years. I'll still bump into people in half a mile away. It's like, oh, we didn't know that existed. I'm like, well, my advertising's terrible then.
Yeah, but that's what it falls.
Yeah,
and I think from a business, that's something you can look at. But I think there's a lot of sports clubs that go, oh yeah, they'll find us. We don't need to promote. No, you do, because actually the amount of people that if you're a big city or a smaller town, whatever else, you need to promote. You need to tell people you're there, because otherwise let's take the rugby club. Unless you want to go to a rugby club, you can type in rugby clubs in Chelmsford and it will come up. But unless you've got the amount of people I see, again, put posts on going, I want my child to do something, but I don't know what there is.
Yeah.
Well, let's do something.
Yeah. What is there to do around here for this year old? And,
yeah. Well, let's bring clubs together. Let's look at hosting an event in the city centre. Let's do an event in Witham. Let's do an event in Chelmsford. Let's do an event around the county where we can actually go, right, okay, well, you send, all you need to send is one person to man the table for a couple of hours. We'll do a morning event in the city centre.
Like a hobbies expo kind of thing.
But that's all it is.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I've looked at for a little while. And I've sort of gone, it's then been pushed there.
Yeah.
But actually for me now, it's really important. And actually be able to go, well, let's do it.
Absolutely.
Because actually clubs will benefit.
And I mean, that's a lot. Are you sure you can't clone yourself?
Yeah, maybe. But again, I get the right people in.
Yeah, and that's something a business coach said to me a while ago. You got to have a wingman. You've got to have at least one person that you're confident you can trust. And if you say, I need this done, and they say, I'll do it, it's done. Someone that you can bounce ideas off of that's got a brain in their head. If you've got your wingman, you're set, because you can't do it all on your own. Back to mental health, you can't do it by yourself.
Yeah, and then you'll get overwhelmed. And I see the amount of business owners get overwhelmed because there's too much. And I'm very much, right, and I use this in life anyway. So I'm very much, just take it one day at a time. one step at a time. I generally, if someone's struggling, I just say, right, breathe, and then right, let's start now. One day at a time. I even had T-shirts made up that said, I think, one day at a time and one step at a time. So, and I gave them out to some sort of people I knew to wear them on social media and stuff. And
that's very good advice for anything. You know, it's the kind of thing that they talk about in for addicts and alcohol, but also for someone who's trying to get over something. How do you eat an elephant? You know, like one bite at a time. And it's very easy to become overwhelmed with any of these things that bother you. And that's such great. Just one day at a time, one step at a time.
Because you get caught involved. You get caught up in it.
Yeah.
When I was going through a lot of my struggles, I did the helicopter view. So you put yourself in a helicopter. You're now looking on top of the situation. Rather than within it, you're looking over the top of it. And then the person you're looking at, as much as that's you're almost going, right, what advice would I give you?
Absolutely.
Because actually, a lot of the time we give great advice. Not all the time. No. But actually we don't follow it ourselves.
No, and it's a very interesting point. So again, it's funny, we're sitting up here. When I was building this, like we built this by hand, I had a friend who was going through a really tough time. And he came over to help me build this. And there were a couple of days when we were up here on our own and he was talking about his situation at the time. And I was giving him some advice. And because of some things that had gone on, like a friendship group had splintered a little bit, and there's some people he could talk to and some people who couldn't. And I won't go into too much detail, but he was in a bad place.
Yeah.
And when I found myself in a similar position a couple of years later, I was able to remember that conversation, and I was able to consciously take my own advice that I'd given him. And I think had I not had that conversation with him, I'd have been really swamped. But I was able to remember the words that I'd said and do that and give myself, my future self, advice. And that really helped. And I don't know where I would have been in my headspace if I didn't have that interaction.
It's amazing where these things happen.
Yeah.
And as I say, we're very good at giving advice. Whether people want to take it, that's their prerogative and that's up to them. But actually, we don't listen enough to what... I'm very much a gut person. I listen to what my gut's saying. On pretty much even business stuff. Is this the right thing? Well, actually, my gut says it is. Right, okay, well, let's go for it.
Yeah.
You know, and we'll worry about that afterwards because we're going to make mistakes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We make lots of mistakes. We make mistakes in life. You know what? Let's learn from it. Let's not beat ourselves up, because the amount of people that beat themselves up about stuff.
Yeah. It's done. Move on.
Let's put it there. We move forward. We don't, that's now in the past. Let's look ahead and we move forward. Awesome. And I think that's the best thing. That's how I look at things anyway.
Excellent. I think that's a lovely place to kind of wrap things up. So where can people find more about Dom Fenton? It's a long list.
So generally Facebook, so it's all Dominic Fenton or the Activity Connector. Instagram, I've got 2 accounts. I've got my personal account again, which is Dom James Fenton. The Activity Connector. LinkedIn, I'm on Dominic Fenton. X or Twitter, whatever it is now. What is it? It's X, isn't it? Yeah. Act Connector. But again, everything's linked.
I'll put some links down.
Yeah. If people want to touch base, just message, just drop.
And the Power of Hobbies podcast as well. I'll put a link to that as well.
Yeah, Power of the Hobby podcast. You were a fab guest. So we'll have to get you on to talk about some other stuff.
Yeah, well, on speaking, that's something that I'd like to do more of, because I do a lot of it, similar to yourself. And where I've done engagements and events, it's always fun to share your stories and listen to other people. So maybe
we should do an event, because actually I was talking to someone and I said, can you give me one bit of advice to do more speaking? And they went, do an event. Set your own event up. And I was like, okay. No. But actually, I really like that bit of advice.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. This is the birth of whatever event it is we're going to do.
We are going to do something because, as you say, there's a reason this has all come up.
Absolutely.
And actually, because I think the amount of people that hopefully we can...
We'll rope Will into it. It'll be fine.
Oh God, he'll take over. I'll talk to him this afternoon. He'll take over. He'll go, oh my God, I can do this and this. It's like, okay.
Brilliant. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate your time. And I'm looking forward to watching this back, actually. So
Brilliant.
thank you.
Thank you. Cheers, mate.